The silence from my oxygen machine was still crushing the room when I felt my daughter-in-law standing over me in the dark. Still, I let my hands stay limp beneath the blanket, using that deadly quiet to steady myself instead of panic. As the silence thickened, it wrapped around me like proof, clear, cold, intentional. While it hovered between us, I finally understood her smile wasn't care, it was countdown. The same silence told me she'd already decided I wouldn't see morning. That's when I decided she'd lose access to everything before I lost another breath. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor, subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The darkness didn't wake her. The absence did. Evelyn's chest seized before her mind even surfaced, a violent tightening that felt like someone pressing a fist into her sternum. Her breath scraped in shallow, useless pulls. The familiar hum of her oxygen concentrator, steady, soft, life-saving, was gone. Silence. A deadly kind. Her eyes fluttered open, vision swimming in the dim Christmas Eve glow leaking through the curtains. The room blurred, shapes bending, edges trembling, but one outline sharpened through the haze. A figure at her bedside. Tessa, standing too still, watching too long. Her hands rested at her sides, but her expression, that polished social smile she wore for the world, was gone. What replaced it was something colder, something practiced. Evelyn tried to inhale and felt nothing fill her lungs. Tessa leaned in, breath warm against the old woman's cheek. Finally, she whispered, voice soft as falling snow. It's our time now. The words slid across Evelyn's skin like ice water. Her pulse fluttered, desperate against failing breath. Years in the ER, fingers in chest wounds, adrenaline battles with death rose up like muscle memory. Don't fight too hard. Not yet. Fade or look like you are. Her eyelids dropped halfway. Her hands stayed limp atop the blanket. Her breathing slowed to shallow, uneven waves that mimicked collapse. Tessa watched, counted breaths, tilted her head like she was admiring her own handiwork. Then, with a satisfied little exhale, she stepped back. Michael will understand, she murmured to no one. He always does. A tune slipped from her lips, something lilting, festive, obscenely cheerful for the moment. A Christmas melody Evelyn had heard her hum while wrapping gifts earlier that evening. Tessa walked out of the room. No urgency. No hesitation. No looking back. The door clicked softly behind her. The second it latched, Evelyn's body surged into motion, arms trembling, lungs screaming. She reached for the oxygen dial with hands that felt carved from stone. The tubing tangled around her wrist, slipped, caught again. Her vision darkened at the edges, stars bursting behind her eyes. Come on, she rasped, barely a sound. Her fingers found the switch. A hiss of air. A thin, miraculous flow. She pressed the mask to her face, chest rising painfully, then again fuller. Heat prickled behind her eyes, not from emotion, but from raw animal relief. She wasn't gone. Not tonight. Footsteps drifted down the hallway, soft, calm, unaware. Evelyn tightened the straps on her mask. Her hands steadied. Her eyes opened fully. Morning light poured in over the foot of the bed, soft, golden, indifferent. Evelyn had been awake for hours. She hadn't moved much. Her oxygen mask sat steady on her face. Her hand rested on her phone beneath the blanket just in case. Her heart had finally stopped racing, but not her mind. She heard the creak of floorboards down the hall, the whisper of slippers, the slight pause outside her door. Then a knock, soft, theatrical. Evelyn, Tessa's voice came sweet and brittle. Just checking on you, hun, everything okay? The door eased open before Evelyn could answer. Tessa stepped in, lips parted like she'd just gasped in relief, but her eyes betrayed her. They flicked to the oxygen machine, to the mask in place, to Evelyn's alert expression, and for half a second her face cracked. Just a flicker. Then, oh, thank God you're up, she said, breathy and rehearsed. I was worried. I came in last night to check, and the machine seemed funny. I thought maybe it was stuck again. Evelyn's eyes didn't blink. It was off, she said evenly. Tessa froze. Then a shaky laugh. Oh, maybe Nia brushed against it during our bedtime stories. You know kids, she gets wild with those pajama dance parties. Evelyn said nothing, just watched her. Tessa clutched her chest like a woman on a soap opera. You gave me a scare, truly, but you're okay, and that's what matters. She reached out to pat Evelyn's blanket-covered hand. Evelyn didn't move it. Downstairs, the sound of a pan clattering and a child giggling broke the silence. Mom, Nia called. I poured too much syrup. Tessa hesitated, smile flickering. Michael made French toast. He's been up since 6, it's ridiculous. Then don't let it burn, Evelyn said coolly, her voice carrying more weight than volume. Tessa nodded once, backing toward the door. Right, okay, I'll bring you some up. She shut the door too gently, as if worried she might wake a version of Evelyn who had actually died last night. As her footsteps faded down the stairs, Evelyn turned her phone over in her hand and opened the Notes app. She typed quietly, 12:25 to 13 a.m., oxygen line disabled while asleep. Tessa present, whispered, finally it's our time now. Machine manually restarted, no malfunction, intentional, surveillance needed, document everything. She saved the entry, tucked the phone back under the covers. Minutes later, the door creaked again. But this time it was Tessa. It was Nia. 10 years old, dark hair still tangled from sleep, wearing a red fleece pajama set with reindeer on the knees. She climbed up onto the bed without asking, curling into Evelyn's side like she had when she was little. You okay, Grandma? She whispered. I am now, Evelyn said softly. Nia hesitated. Mom was acting weird last night. Evelyn turned her head slightly. What kind of weird? I heard her go in your room, but she told Dad she was going to the garage. And later I heard her on the phone saying she was ready to move forward. Nia squirmed a little. She said UD made things easier than expected. Evelyn exhaled slowly, brushing a hand through the child's hair. You're very brave for telling me, she said. Nia looked up. Are you gonna tell her I did? No, Evelyn promised. Your secret's safe. Downstairs, Michael's voice rang out brightly, too brightly. Breakfast is ready. Come get it while it's hot. Nia slid off the bed and gave Evelyn a quick kiss on the cheek. I saved you a piece with extra cinnamon. As she ran out, Evelyn looked at the door. Her hand moved slowly, reaching into the drawer beside the bed. She pulled out a small spiral notebook, something she'd once used for grocery lists and medication times. She opened to a fresh page. At the top, she wrote, Day 1, and beneath it, they thought I wouldn't wake up. Snow still clung to the sidewalks as Evelyn shuffled down the quiet Denver street, her oxygen tank rolling beside her on its small, steady wheels. She'd waited until late morning, until Michael drove Nia to her holiday choir rehearsal, and until Tessa disappeared to pick up gifts. A lie, Evelyn was sure of it, but lies had become the wallpaper of this house. She reached the law office, brick, modest, tucked between a bakery and a physical therapy center, a place where people came when their bodies or their families betrayed them. The door chimed as she entered. A secretary greeted her with a warm nod. Mrs. Hartman, Ms. Ames is expecting you. Evelyn didn't remember scheduling an appointment. She must have called on autopilot somewhere between fear and fury, but she followed quietly. Rachel Ames stood as Evelyn entered her office. Short hair, sharp eyes, a navy blazer that suggested no patience for nonsense. You look like a woman who didn't come for holiday pleasantries, Rachel said gently. Evelyn lowered herself into the chair opposite her. I need help, and I need this conversation to be private. Rachel's gaze sharpened. Tell me everything. Evelyn did. The oxygen cut off. The whisper. The fake morning theatrics. Nia's frightened confession. The entry she'd logged at 2:13 a.m. Rachel listened without interrupting. When she finally spoke, it wasn't with shock, it was with recognition. This is elder abuse, she said, and not subtle. The moment someone interferes with medical equipment, we are no longer talking about family tension. We're talking about attempted harm. Evelyn's hands tightened around her scarf. I can't prove it yet. That's what documentation is for. Rachel pulled out a pad. We start building today. Medical notations, digital alerts, financial restrictions. Everything she tries to touch will generate a traceable record. Evelyn nodded. I want protection without tipping her off. Then you'll get exactly that. Rachel guided her through each step. Placing tamper alerts on her medical equipment. Setting up financial notifications for any login attempts. Restricting changes to her insurance, pensions, and property deeds. Updating emergency contacts to exclude Tessa entirely. Drafting preliminary affidavits. By the time they were done, Evelyn's world felt different. Not safe, no, she wasn't naive enough for that, but fortified, armored. Rachel tapped her pen once more. Does your son know she shut off your oxygen? No. Would he believe you? Evelyn looked down at her hands. Not yet. Rachel nodded, not judging. Then we let the evidence speak before you do. When Evelyn returned home, she heard laughter forced, sharp, coming from the living room. Michael sat on the couch assembling a toy drone, humming distractedly. He looked up at her, smiling warmly. Mom, you're back already. We could have driven you. Evelyn smiled, easing her coat off. Fresh air did me good. Tessa appeared from the hallway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Oh, you were out. Her surprise was too theatrical, too bright. I thought you were resting. You should have woken me. I didn't want to, Evelyn said, tone mild. You seemed busy. A flicker, anxiety, anger, crossed Tessa's face before she masked it. Michael said, Mom, the machine looked weird last night. Tess thinks the switch might be loose. Maybe we should call for repairs. Maybe, Evelyn said, voice steady. She let the moment hang. Michael didn't notice. Tessa did. But neither saw Nia, halfway down the stairs, watching with wide eyes. Later that afternoon, as Evelyn settled into her room, she heard something, a faint rustle, a drawer sliding open. She stood quietly and walked toward her door, staying out of sight. Through the crack, she saw Tessa in her bedroom, kneeling beside the nightstand. Her hands rummaging through Evelyn's drawer. Digging through her inhalers, her pill bottles, her notebooks. Looking for something. Looking for evidence. Looking for leverage. Looking for whatever she thought would let her finish what she'd started. But she wasn't alone. At the end of the hall, unnoticed, Nia stood frozen, watching her mother violate her grandmother's room. Her small hand lifted slowly, reaching for Evelyn's door handle. By the time evening settled over the house, the smell of cinnamon ham and roasting vegetables filled the rooms, warm, festive, comforting in the way lies often pretend to be. Evelyn moved slowly down the hallway with her oxygen rolling beside her, each step deliberate. Nia trailed quietly behind, small fingers brushing the banister, eyes heavy with things she didn't know how to say. The dining table looked staged, perfect napkin folds, polished silverware, candles that flickered a little too intentionally. Tessa excelled at appearances. Tonight was no exception. Mom, Michael said warmly as he pulled out her chair, you made it. Looks like we're all together. Together, a word that once sounded like family, now it sounded like a threat wrapped in ribbon. Evelyn eased into her seat. Tessa placed a serving spoon onto the ham platter with exaggerated gentleness, but she did not look at Evelyn, not once. Her smile was bright, her hands shook. Nia sat beside her grandmother, shoulders tight, eyes darting between her parents. Michael raised his glass. To family, he said. Tessa echoed him a beat too late. To family, she murmured, lifting her own glass carefully, too carefully, as if she was trying not to show the tremor in her wrist. Evelyn lifted her water slowly. Her oxygen concentrator hummed, not loudly, just consistently. Tessa flinched at the sound, almost imperceptibly. And dinner began. Conversation came in uneven waves. Michael asked about choir practice, traffic, weather predictions. Tessa chimed in like a woman auditioning for the role of perfect daughter-in-law, laughing too quickly, agreeing too much. But her eyes never met Evelyn's. What's this about renovating the house? Michael asked suddenly, sliding mashed potatoes onto his plate. Tessa stiffened. Evelyn's fork paused midair. Michael chuckled, oblivious. Tess mentioned it earlier, thinking maybe we should update things a bit, make the place safer, modernize. Tessa dabbed the corner of her mouth with her napkin. Well, you know, the house is older, and with your mom's health, maybe simplifying the layout, rethinking how rooms are used. Evelyn watched her, silent. Michael kept going, unaware he was delivering lines from someone else's script, maybe even reworking the office, turning it into, I don't know, something more usable. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. Tessa wants control of the space. Tessa wants control of everything. Nia nudged Evelyn gently under the table. Grandma, she whispered softly, your machine, does it sound different tonight? Tessa's head jerked upward. Evelyn placed a calming hand over Nia's. It's fine, sweetie. But she looked directly at Tessa when she said it. For the first time that night, Tessa's smile faltered, cracked at the edges like a porcelain mask dropped onto tile. Michael, oblivious, continued. Mom, maybe when you feel stronger we could talk through it all, no pressure. Of course, Evelyn said calmly, when I feel stronger. Tessa's jaw tightened. She reached for her phone, hidden in her lap beneath the tablecloth, and tapped rapidly. A secret text. Another, thumb moving fast, grim determination in her posture. Evelyn pretended to adjust her napkin, repositioning herself just enough to see the faint glow of Tessa's screen reflected in the polished silverware. A preview flashed. One line. Not long enough for details, but enough to tell tone. Tonight didn't work. Evelyn's pulse stayed steady. Nia's hand tightened around hers again, quietly seeking reassurance. Evelyn gave her a gentle squeeze. I've got you. Across the table, Michael reached for more rolls, blissfully unaware of the tectonic shift happening beneath his feet. The candles flickered. The hum of the oxygen filled the quiet. And Tessa typed again beneath the table, faster, sharper. This time, Evelyn caught more of the reflection. She's still breathing. We need to. Tessa froze. Her eyes snapped up, because she had just realized Evelyn was watching her. Really watching. Like a nurse who'd seen hundreds of lies bled through thousands of faces. The phone slid from Tessa's fingers and landed softly in her lap. Dinner went silent. Evelyn lifted her water glass, her movements slow, controlled. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The morning after the Too Perfect dinner, snow drifted softly against the windows, quieting the world but not Evelyn's mind. She sat at the kitchen table with her inhaler beside her, a steaming mug of weak chamomile cooling untouched. The house felt staged again, Tessa humming in the pantry, Michael clearing dishes too loudly, Nia coloring quietly at the counter. Evelyn waited. Not for them. For her phone. It buzzed just before 10 a.m. A message from Rachel. Call me now. Evelyn stood slowly, tugged her oxygen line, and slipped into the privacy of her bedroom. She closed the door, locked it, and sat on the edge of her bed. She called. Rachel answered on the first ring. Evelyn, she said, tone clipped, I found something you need to sit down for. I'm already seated, Evelyn replied. Good, because this isn't carelessness, it's premeditation. Evelyn's heart tightened, not in fear but in confirmation. Rachel continued. Yesterday, someone requested information from your life insurance provider, not general brochures, your specific policy. Evelyn's jaw set. Who? Tessa, she used your home address and last 4 digits of your husband's social. That got her access to a summary. A cold wave rolled through Evelyn's chest. Why would she need that? Evelyn asked, but she already knew. Rachel didn't soften the answer, because she also submitted a beneficiary update. Silence fell so sharply Evelyn could hear her oxygen line click. Rachel added quietly, she tried to replace Nia with herself. Evelyn closed her eyes. Not shock, not pain, but a deep, clean clarity. Send me the form, she said. Rachel did. Evelyn opened the file. Her signature, clumsy, shaky, but attempting to mimic her cursive, stared back at her. Wrong slant, wrong loops, wrong date format. Falsified. And bold enough to insult her intelligence. What else? Evelyn asked. Rachel inhaled. Financial alerts flagged 2 login attempts on your retirement accounts this week. Failed credentials, but the IP address is from your home Wi-Fi. Tessa again, Evelyn whispered. She's escalating, Rachel's tone dropped, and that's not all. Something in her voice made Evelyn sit straighter. Rachel. The life insurance company forwarded a secondary request filed this morning. Tessa tried applying for a terminal illness advance payout. Evelyn went still. She could feel her pulse in her fingertips. She used your medical files, Rachel said. Ones she should never have had access to, ones that make your cough sound dire, end stage. Evelyn's throat tightened, not from illness. From betrayal sharpened into steel. She's not improvising, Evelyn murmured. She planned this long before she touched my oxygen. Yes, Rachel confirmed. This is not spur-of-the-moment cruelty. This is a coordinated attempt to profit from your death. A slow, cold calm settled over Evelyn's body. She had seen death hundreds of times in her career, quietly, violently, unexpectedly, but she had never seen it invited. Manufactured. Arranged. Tessa's footsteps suddenly approached the bedroom. Evelyn pressed a hand to her chest, lowered her voice. Rachel, I need next steps. Documentation, protection orders, and immediate freezes on all accounts, Rachel replied. I've already started, but you must stay outwardly neutral if she senses you know. She'll rush, Evelyn finished. Yes, and panic makes people sloppy. Let her get sloppy. A knock on her door. Tessa's voice, sugared, controlled. Evelyn, do you need anything? Tea, breakfast? Evelyn exhaled slowly. I'm fine. Rachel whispered, we have her, now let her think she has you. Evelyn hung up, tucked her phone under her pillow, and removed her oxygen mask. When she opened the bedroom door, Tessa stood there with a carefully assembled smile and a tray of sliced fruit. You poor thing, she cooed. You've been in here ages, I was starting to worry. Evelyn looked at her, not as prey. as the predator who'd just realized the forest was watching. "Thank you," Evelyn said quietly. "I'll eat later." Tessa blinked, startled by the calm. Evelyn stepped past her. The oxygen tank hummed behind her. But Evelyn's lungs felt stronger than they had in days. By late evening, the house had grown unnervingly gentle, too quiet, too careful, like everyone was trying to perform calmness rather than live in awe. Tell you. Evelyn stayed in her recliner in the living room, the lights low, a blanket draped over her lap. She positioned her oxygen softer than usual, letting the hiss taper just enough to sound like she was struggling. Wake. Tired. Diminishing. It was a role she slipped into with surgical precision. Tessa hovered at the edge of the room, wiping down a perfectly clean counter, straightening pillows that didn't need straightening. Each glance at Evelyn lasted a fraction too long. Each smile was painted on with a trembling brush. "You okay over there?" she asked sweetly, drifting closer. Her voice was warm, but her eyes flicked to the oxygen gauge with predatory instinct. Evelyn let her eyelids droop more heavily. "Just a little tired, long day." Tessa stepped closer, circling the recliner as if measuring its angles, her movements slow and shark-like. "Maybe you should try to sleep earlier tonight," she suggested lightly. "Exhaustion isn't good for people your age, stress either." Evelyn hummed weakly. The weakness was intentional. A lure. Tessa bit down a smile so small most people would have missed it, but Evelyn didn't. She'd spent years reading patients in their last seconds. She knew exactly what people looked like when they thought time finally favored them. Michael entered then, rubbing the back of his neck like he'd practiced the gesture in a mirror. "Mom," he said, voice heavy with guilt and coaxing at once, "Tessa and I were talking, maybe it's time we think about some kind of assisted living option. Just while you recover more, just while you get stable again." Evelyn didn't look up. Michael swallowed, glancing at Tessa for guidance. She offered him a tiny nod, encouraging the script she'd written for him. "I mean," he continued, "a facility could make sure you're monitored at night, you'd be safe there, and we could renovate the house without worrying you D-trip on anything." There it was, their plan wrapped in worry. Evelyn exhaled shakily, letting her hand tremble just enough for him to notice. "I'm just not sure I'm ready for that," she whispered. Michael crouched beside her. "I know it's a lot, Mom, but we want what's best for you." He meant it, that was the tragedy. Tessa, on the other hand, watched with the hunger of someone who'd waited too long for control. "We don't have to decide now," she said softly. "Just think about it." Evelyn nodded slowly. "I'll think." Michael kissed her forehead, relief flooding his features. Tessa's relief looked nothing like his. It looked like victory. Hours passed, night thickened, the house dimmed. From her bedroom, Evelyn heard soft taps from her phone, messages from Rachel. Pension protections locked. Bank accounts restricted. Insurance flagged fraudulent, investigation opened. All legal access for Tessa frozen as of 9:03 p.m. Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. She was no longer prey. Not on paper. Not in law. Not in truth. Now all she needed was proof, and Tessa was unraveling enough to hand it to her. As Evelyn slid her phone under the pillow, she heard a faint knock. The door opened just enough for a small shape to slip through. It was Nia, clutching a folded slip of notebook paper. Her eyes glistened as she hurried to Evelyn's bedside. "Grandma, I didn't know who else to tell." She pressed the paper into Evelyn's palm. Evelyn unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was uneven, frightened. "I heard Mom say you won't make it through the week." Evelyn looked up, heart steady, breath measured, not out of fear but out of sharpened resolve. "Thank you," she whispered, brushing a thumb over Nia's cheek. "You're safe, I promise." Nia trembled. "Are you safe?" Evelyn held her close for a moment. Then she tilted her head toward the door, listening. Footsteps. Light. Careful. Tessa passing in the hall. Lingering. Listening. Evelyn dimmed her breathing again, slipping back into the role she needed Tessa to see. Fragile. Fading. One foot in the world, one foot out. But her eyes, when she caught Nia's gaze, burned with life. The camera was hidden inside a lavender-scented air purifier. Small, sleek, unthreatening. Positioned perfectly to capture the oxygen valve, the tubing, the nightstand, and anyone who approached it. Evelyn had ordered it discreetly through Rachel's team and paid cash through a courier pickup. No deliveries to the house, no packaging left behind, No digital footprints, just a tiny lens watching from the shadows with more patience than any human could muster. By the following night, it was active. Evelyn pretended to drift off early, TV murmuring low, oxygen flowing, her body still beneath the quilt. Tessa checked in around 9:15 p.m., head poked through the door, smiling like a nurse from a bad soap opera. "Sleep well, Evelyn," she said sweetly. "Let me know if you need anything." Evelyn mumbled something half-formed and sleepy. Her eyes didn't open. The door clicked shut, but the lens kept watching. 9:38 p.m. Footsteps returned, bare, quiet. Tessa, wrapped in a cream cardigan, moved like a sleepwalker. She slipped inside, eyes narrowed on the oxygen unit. Her fingers hovered for a moment over the dial, then she crouched, blocking it from the hallway. The camera caught everything. The slow twist, the pause, then her whisper, soft and venomous. "Just a twist and it's done, peaceful." Her hand tightened the knob another quarter inch. Evelyn didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't need to. The camera recorded it all, time-stamped and framed like courtroom evidence waiting to breathe. Tessa stood slowly, wiped her palm on her cardigan, and leaned in, just enough to study Evelyn's face. The woman she thought couldn't wake. The woman she was certain would fade out any day now. "You made this easier than it had to be," she murmured. "You don't belong here anymore." She walked out. No second glance. By morning, the footage had already been encrypted, copied, and uploaded. Rachel sent one text. Got it, sending it to Grant. Officer Grant Willis, elder safety liaison with the Denver PD, was a man Evelyn had met years ago at a neighborhood watch meeting. Back then, he gave advice about porch thefts and fireworks ordinances. Now he watched the recording twice, once in silence, once again with his jaw clenched. He called Evelyn directly. "I need to ask this carefully," he said. "Are you in immediate danger?" "No," she replied, cool and steady. "I'm in position." Grant exhaled into the line. "This is attempted homicide, plain and simple, premeditated, recorded, and she doesn't even try to hide it." "No, she doesn't," Evelyn agreed. "She thinks I'm dying. She wants it to look like mercy." "You're not dying," Grant said, sharper than she expected. "No," Evelyn said again, "not anymore." That evening, Tessa posted to her Instagram story. A cozy photo of Christmas lights reflecting off the living room window, a mug of cocoa, a blurry glimpse of Michael setting down a board game. The caption read, "Some people are just a burden during the holidays, others become peace." Evelyn watched from the corner of the room, her reading glasses perched low on her nose. She scrolled through the post once, twice, then took a screenshot. She texted it to Rachel with one line. "More proof she's foreshadowing a death." Rachel responded instantly. "This post will be archived. Her arrogance will be her undoing." Around 10:15, Tessa passed Evelyn in the hallway, fake yawning, brushing her shoulder lightly. "You should get some sleep," she murmured. "You looked pale earlier." Evelyn didn't break stride. "I've been through worse." Tessa blinked. "Well, don't push yourself too hard." Evelyn nodded once. "I won't." She turned away. But Tessa, for a fraction of a second, glanced at the oxygen tank again. And Evelyn saw it. The mental note. The countdown clock behind her eyes. She's planning another attempt. The next morning arrived gray and unmoving, the kind of winter light that made everything feel suspended, nothing fully day, nothing quite night. Evelyn sat at the kitchen table with her planner open, pen resting neatly between the spirals. She looked like a woman organizing vitamins and grocery lists. She was actually rewriting the architecture of her entire life. Across the room, Michael tinkered with the coffee maker, muttering under his breath about clogged filters. He looked exhausted, confused, caught between wanting peace and sensing, somewhere deep in his chest, that something was shattering behind the drywall of his home. Tessa didn't come downstairs. Not yet. Grant's text had arrived at dawn. "Search warrant assists complete. You need to see this." A second later, a screenshot followed, blurred enough for legal caution but clear enough for Evelyn's stomach to harden. Search history results pulled from Tessa's devices. How long until oxygen deprivation kills? Natural-looking death, elderly signs. Accelerate hypoxia without bruising. Family death certificate, what doctors check. The final one landed like a blow. Is unplugging oxygen homicide if patient is sick already? Evelyn closed the images slowly. the way someone closes the eyes of a stranger who's already gone cold. She didn't tremble. She didn't gasp. Her stillness was the kind that came after truth finally found its shape. Behind her, Nia appeared silently in the doorway, clutching her winter coat. She looked smaller than usual, shoulders hunched, lips pressed tight. "Grandma," she whispered, "Mom's been in her room since last night. She keeps talking to herself." Evelyn angled her head gently. "What did she say?" Nia hesitated. "She said things aren't moving fast enough." Another small fracture, another truth. Evelyn reached for her granddaughter's hand. "You stay close to your dad today and stay where you can see me." Nia nodded quickly, eyes wide with a fear no child should know. Tessa's footsteps finally drifted down the stairs, calm, measured, almost lazy. She appeared in the door. Wearing soft Christmas pajamas and holding her phone like a prop in a holiday commercial. "Morning," she said brightly. "Everyone sleep okay?" Evelyn offered a small smile, surprisingly well. Tessa's gaze flicked, quickly to the oxygen machine, then to the bedroom hallway, as if mentally rehearsing the next opportunity. She didn't notice Nia watching her like someone might watch a storm rolling closer. "Oh," Tessa added casually, "I'm going to run out for a bit, just errands, returns, holiday chaos." Evelyn leaned back in her chair. "Before breakfast." Tessa shrugged. "Some stores get crowded." Michael didn't look up. "Grab milk, please." But there was a tremor in his voice now, just enough to show cracks forming. When Tessa left, the silence stayed long after the door shut. A text chimed. "Rachel, will update completed, Tessa removed, trust secured for Nia only, all changes sealed." Evelyn exhaled, a long, slow breath into certainty. She'd spent her life saving strangers in the ER. Now she was saving herself with the same decisive calm. She flipped her planner to a fresh page and wrote, 12/27, all access revoked. No announcements, no confrontation. Let consequences arrive without warning. Michael finally sank into the chair across from her. "Mom, is something going on? You've been quiet." Tessa's been tense. Evelyn looked at him, the boy she'd raised, the man who trusted too easily, the father doing his best to shield his daughter from shadows he couldn't yet see. "I'm setting boundaries," she said, voice soft but unwavering, "and some people don't like boundaries." "Did she say something to you?" he asked, worried. Evelyn shook her head gently. "Not something new." He didn't understand, but he was beginning to feel it. Later that afternoon, Officer Grant called again. His voice was tight, clipped. "We've reviewed more digital history," he said. "You were right, this wasn't impulsive. She studied methods, timing, how to disguise the cause." "I know," Evelyn answered. "We're building a full case now. But Evelyn, we need one more detail to lock this in. We need to know how far she'll go next." "She'll show you," Evelyn said. "She's unraveling." A long pause. Grant exhaled. "Be careful." "I am." She hung up. Across the living room, she saw Nia peeking around the corner again, scared, small, waiting for reassurance. Evelyn opened her arms. Nia rushed in, burying her face against her grandmother's chest. "You're safe," Evelyn whispered. But a shadow shifted at the door just for a moment. Tessa had returned, and she'd heard that whisper. The tank she left out that night wasn't her real oxygen supply. It was a decoy. Identical model, slightly older, lighter by a few pounds, fitted with a micro GPS tracker disguised beneath a maintenance barcode. Rachel's team had built it custom, no oxygen output, just a timed blinking light inside to simulate activity. And Evelyn made sure Tessa saw her use it. She positioned it in full view during dinner, let Tessa watch her plug it in, let her imagine she'd gotten lazy, careless, tired. By midnight, Evelyn was in her bed with the real supply line coiled beneath the mattress, quiet, powerful, untouchable. The decoy sat beside her like a trusting dog. And at 1:12 a.m., the camera caught the theft. Tessa moved like she was stealing secrets from a dying woman, careful steps, hands steady, no gloves. She unhooked the line with mechanical grace, slid the tank into a tote bag, and whispered, "Night, night." Then she was gone. By 1:30, Officer Grant had the GPS feed live. The signal pulsed slowly, moving east through the city, pausing only at red lights. She wasn't rushing, she wasn't afraid. She thought she was cleaning up loose ends. The tracker stopped just outside a row of storage units along Arapahoe Road, cold, industrial, tucked behind a used car lot. Grant didn't wait. By 2:15, a black SUV rolled up quietly, 2 unmarked cars followed. They waited until Tessa unlocked the metal door to Unit 118. They didn't stop her until she pulled the tote bag out, casually like she'd done it a dozen times before. When she turned, flashlight beams caught her eyes. "Police," one officer said sharply. "Step back, hands visible." Tessa froze. What is this?" she stammered. They didn't answer. One officer kept her contained, another entered the unit, then he called out. You're gonna want to see this. Rows of tanks. 7 in total. Some empty, some still capped, all labeled with fake service tags. And in the corner, discarded tubing, several ends sliced, one stained faintly with something dark, dried. Evelyn hadn't known about the unit. Neither had Rachel. This wasn't just one act of desperation. This had been practice. By sunrise, Evelyn sat in Rachel's office again, sipping tea. Rachel stared at the evidence photos, silent for a long moment. Then she said almost numbly, she rehearsed, like it was a routine. Evelyn didn't speak. She didn't need to. In that silence, her strength fell. Nuclear. At home, Michael paced the kitchen in circles, hands shoved deep in his hoodie pocket. Tessa said she was going to a donation center, he muttered. Said she was giving away old decorations. Why would she lie about that? Evelyn stirred her tea. Michael's voice cracked. Mom, what's going on? She looked up slowly, not cruelly, not dramatically. Just with the weight of everything he hadn't wanted to see. You're going to find out soon, she said softly. You need to be ready. Michael's jaw clenched. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. He looked at the floor like the answers might be hiding in the wood grain. Outside, a squad car idled at the curb. Evelyn's window cracked open just enough to hear the engine humming. Across the room, Nia sat curled on the couch, watching her father. Her voice was so quiet it nearly got lost in the hum. Daddy, she asked, what's a storage unit? Michael looked at her, startled. Why? She pointed to the hallway. I heard Mommy tell someone on the phone that she cleaned the storage tank from the unit. His hands dropped. Silence swept through the room. Evelyn placed her teacup gently on the saucer. Michael turned toward her slowly. Is this what I think it is? Evelyn didn't answer with words. She held out her phone. On the screen, footage from the air purifier camera. Tessa, hands on the tank, whispering. Just a twist and it's done. Michael sat down hard. Everything he had defended shattered in a single clip. He covered his face. Tessa walked in 5 minutes later, coat slung over her arm, humming a familiar tune. Until she saw Grant standing in the hallway. Behind him, 2 officers, warrant in hand. And Evelyn, still in her chair, still alive, still watching. The lights in the living room glowed soft and warm, gold halos bouncing off garlands and pine-needled shadows. Silent Night hummed from the record player, the needle crackling like faint static in the stillness. It was a beautiful illusion. Evelyn lay beneath a quilt on the recliner, her chest rising slowly. Her eyes were closed, her lips slack, but she wasn't asleep. She was counting. 5 seconds in, 7 seconds out. Long, even breaths, just enough movement to look real. Her oxygen tank sat beside her again, out in the open. This one wasn't a decoy, it was the real thing. Because tonight wasn't about bait. Tonight was about capture. Outside, 2 patrol cars sat dark at the end of the block. Engine off, radios muted. Officer Grant stood just out of sight, earpiece in, phone in hand. Rachel waited on the line, her voice low and steady in his ear. She'll try again, Rachel said. Tonight's the anniversary of Evelyn's husband's passing. It fits the narrative, grief, stress, elder decline. She's smart, Grant replied. Smart enough to underestimate someone sharper. Inside the house, the clock ticked past 11:42 p.m. Footsteps on the stairs. Tessa. Soft slippers, careful pace. She moved like she thought she was above suspicion, like she was just checking in, like maybe she'd bring a glass of water and say, just wanted to see if you needed anything. But she didn't carry water. She wore latex gloves. Thin, pale blue, medical grade. Evelyn heard the faint stretch of the material as Tessa flexed her fingers. Then the shuffle toward her. Closer. Tessa paused at the edge of the recliner, one breath, 2. Then she crouched. Evelyn didn't open her eyes. Tessa reached toward the valve, hand hovering, fingers poised like a pianist about to strike the first key. Just as she touched it, Evelyn coughed. Not weakly, not wheezy. A sharp, deliberate bark that echoed through the room like a cracked whip. Tessa jerked backward, hitting her elbow on the table. Evelyn opened her eyes. Calm, alive, watching. Tessa's breath caught in her throat. And at that precise moment, Evelyn's phone vibrated on the table beside her. She tapped the screen without looking. Rachel's voice crackled through the speaker. We're ready. Tessa scrambled up, voice panicked. What is this? Evelyn tilted her head. You tell me. Why won't you just die? Tessa snapped. You don't even want to be here anymore. The door burst open. Officer Grant stepped inside first, weapon holstered but firm in stance. Two deputies followed close behind. Tessa Hartman, he said, step away from the tank and keep your hands where we can see them. Tessa turned, frozen. For the first time, her expression cracked all the way through. Fear, not performance, not manipulation, real, trembling fear. Michael appeared in the hallway behind them, near clinging to his leg. His face was pale, his eyes wide. He saw the gloves, he saw the tank. He saw his mother awake, alert, alive. What's happening? He asked. Tessa opened her mouth, but Evelyn beat her to it. She came to finish what she started, Evelyn said calmly, but I've already finished her access. Tessa lunged for the front door. Grant caught her by the wrist. Handcuffs clicked tight behind her back. What? Get your hands off me, she shrieked. This is harassment. I was helping her breathe. You were cutting her off, Grant said. We have video, GPS logs, deleted searches, insurance fraud, and now attempted murder in progress. Tessa's voice twisted into a scream. She pretended she tricked me. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. You thought I was fragile. You mistook silence for surrender. The room filled with tension so thick it felt like another presence. Grant glanced back at her. We're transporting her tonight. Protective orders will be processed by morning. Michael stepped forward, his voice hollow. Tess. She turned toward him, eyes pleading now. But he didn't meet them. He was looking at his mother. And for the first time in a long time, really seeing her. Still standing, still breathing, still in control. The interrogation room wasn't designed for comfort. Cold walls, bright overhead fluorescence, a steel table that made every breath sound louder. Tessa sat in the center of it, cuffed, cheeks flushed with panic. Her hair, usually curled and styled, hung limp around her face. Her Christmas pajamas looked absurd in the harsh light, like a child caught playing dress-up in a courtroom. Officer Grant entered without ceremony, a file tucked under one arm. Michael followed behind him, slower, uncertain, looking like a man walking into the autopsy of his own marriage. Evelyn stood in the doorway last, straight-backed, oxygen tank humming softly at her side. She didn't step into the room, she didn't need to, her presence filled it anyway. Grant sat across from Tessa. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't glare. He didn't nod intimidation. He had evidence. Ms. Hartman, he said, opening the file, we're going to walk through this once. After that, anything you say becomes part of your official statement. Tessa's fingers twisted together until her knuckles blanched. I already told you I didn't do anything. This is twisted. She's manipulating you. Grant didn't flinch. He pressed a button on the small speaker beside him. A familiar whisper filled the room. Finally, it's our time now. Tessa's face drained of color. Michael's knees buckled. He grabbed the back of the chair to steady himself. Grant continued calmly. This was taken from Evelyn's air purifier camera at 2:13 a.m. Tessa slammed her cuffed hands onto the table. That's edited. You people don't understand. She's sick. She forgets things. She wants help. Evelyn's voice drifted in from the doorway. Zovd. Steady. Cutting through Tessa's hysteria like a scalpel. I remember every second. Tessa snapped toward her. You do, you sleep half the day, you wheeze all night, you're barely hanging on, I was helping you, I was. Grant pressed another button. Footage now. Frozen frame, Tessa crouched at the oxygen tank, hand gripping the valve. Audio. Just a twist and it's done. The silence afterward felt thick enough to suffocate. Tessa's breath came out in a ragged sob. No, that's not what it looks like. Michael finally spoke. Tessa, he whispered, eyes shining, tell me you didn't do this. Tell me this isn't real. Tessa looked at him then, really looked. Not with charm. Not with manipulation. With desperation. It was supposed to be peaceful, she blurted. She wasn't supposed to. She stopped. Too late. Grant leaned forward. Finish your sentence. Tessa's chest heaved. She wasn't supposed to suffocate, not painfully, it was just cutting the air a little, making her slip naturally. She's old, she's sick, it would have looked normal. Michael recoiled like she'd struck him. Oh my God, he whispered. You, Tess, what are you saying? Tessa sobbed, voice spiraling. You don't understand, we needed the house, the renovations, the insurance, we needed a future, and she just kept hanging on. Evelyn stepped forward 1 inch. Life isn't something you wait out, she said quietly, and it isn't something you take. Tessa stared at her, wild and trembling. It should have worked, she snapped suddenly. You were supposed to stop breathing weeks ago. Michael's hands flew to his mouth. Grant looked at the camera recording everything. We'll classify that as admission. Tessa's shoulders collapsed inward, like the confession had drained the last bone of support inside her. Michael sank into the chair beside him, face in his hands. My wife, he whispered, shaking, my wife tried to kill my mother. He didn't say it to anyone. He said it because he needed to hear it. To believe it. Because denial had just died in that room. Tessa looked between them, between a mother who wouldn't die and a husband who wouldn't defend her anymore. You've ruined everything, she hissed at Evelyn. You were supposed to be gone, you were supposed to let go. Evelyn held her gaze. Unblinking. Alive. Unbroken. I let go of nothing, she said. You tried, you failed. Grant stood. We're transferring her now. Tessa shrieked as the deputies pulled her to her feet. She'll die anyway, you'll see. She'll die without me doing anything. Evelyn's expression didn't change. Michael's heartbreak did. He bent forward, shoulders shaking, tears dripping onto a steel floor. And Evelyn, after all of it, after every breath she fought for, whispered only one thing. Michael, look at me, I'm not dying. He lifted his head, eyes raw. Outside the room, a phone buzzed. Grant stepped back in. Evelyn, he said, voice shifted, alert, urgent, darker than before. There's something else. Grant's words lingered in the air like the warning before a storm. There's something else. Evelyn's expression barely changed, but her grip on the oxygen tank's handle tightened. What did you find? She asked, voice steady. Grant motioned for her and Michael to follow. Storage unit records, paperwork buried under those tanks, financials, account numbers, a burner phone, the name on the other end, hers. He turned toward Michael. Not Evelyn S., Tessa S. They moved down the hallway of the precinct, the buzz of overhead lights flickering as if the walls themselves weren't sure they could hold what was coming. In the processing room, Tessa was being fingerprinted. Her eyes were wild now, not calculated, not crying but raw. The mask had shattered and fallen from her face completely. She saw them as they entered and spit words like venom. She set me up, you think this was all me. You think I'm the only one who wanted her gone. Michael flinched and Tess don't. She's lying, Tessa shouted, struggling against the grip of the officer holding her cuffed wrists. You think I hacked your mom's bank account by myself. You think I filed insurance claims using info only you had access to. Michael's face went pale. Enough, Grant snapped. You've said more than enough. Tessa twisted toward Evelyn one last time. You can play the victim all you want, she hissed, but we were supposed to have a future. Evelyn didn't blink. You chose a future without a conscience, she said. That's not living, that's surviving someone else's funeral. Grant gave the nod. 2 officers escorted Tessa out of the room. She screamed until the door closed behind her. Then there was silence. Michael leaned against the wall, sliding slowly down until he was sitting on the floor. His hands shook. His voice, when it came, was a whisper through cracked glass. I didn't want to believe it. Evelyn stood over him. But you did, she said softly. Somewhere deep down you saw it and you ignored it. He looked up, guilt written across every line of his face. I'm so sorry. Evelyn nodded once. I forgive your fear, but I don't forgive your blindness. That has to be earned back. Michael closed his eyes, shame washing over him like ice water. Rachel appeared in the doorway a moment later, tablet in hand, coat still dusted with snow. It's done, she said, protection orders finalized. Immediate and permanent, she can't contact Evelyn or Nia, not now, not ever. Evelyn exhaled, not relief but release. Any word on the accounts, she asked. Rachel's brow furrowed. Yes, and you're not going to like it. She handed over the tablet. On the screen, pages of spreadsheet logs, bank account names, transactions, usernames, dates going back over a year. She's been moving funds, Rachel said, from shared household accounts, from Michael's payroll, from your old investment account, into 3 different shells. Michael's eyes widened. I didn't authorize. You didn't need to, Rachel interrupted gently. She used joint access, but that stops today. Behind them, the door opened again. Nia burst into the room, cheeks red, eyes wide. Is Mommy going to jail? Michael froze. Evelyn stepped forward and knelt carefully in front of her. Yes, she said softly, because what she did wasn't safe, and when people hurt others on purpose, there are consequences. Nia's lip trembled. I don't want to live with her, please don't let them take me away from you. Evelyn pulled her close, her voice thick now. You're not going anywhere. Michael crouched down beside them, eyes glistening. I'll sign whatever I have to, he said. I'll fight for her to stay with you. Rachel nodded. We'll begin emergency guardianship filings tonight. As Evelyn held Nia tighter, a single text vibrated in Rachel's hand. She read it, face darkening. It's from the Financial Crimes Division, she said. They found something new in one of the offshore accounts. Evelyn looked up. What? Rachel met her gaze. It wasn't just money. Rachel's last words still hung in the air when the conference room door opened again. A prosecutor from the Financial Crimes Division stepped inside, coat half-zipped, breath still sharp from the cold. He set a manila folder on the table with a quiet thud. We have a problem, he said, and by problem I mean a federal case. Michael stiffened, Evelyn didn't move. The prosecutor opened the folder, revealing printed emails, claim forms, and screenshots. Tessa didn't just move money, he said. She used Evelyn's medical records illegally. Rachel exhaled, already bracing, which records. The prosecutor tapped a form stamped with an insurance C. Ompany's logo. Ones from her pulmonologist, ones that describe COPD progression, ones she had no legal right to access. He slid the paper toward Evelyn. She used them to apply for a compassionate terminal payout on your behalf. Michael's jaw dropped. But that's for people who are dying, he whispered. She tried to make it look like she was, the prosecutor said. She fabricated symptoms, submitted false lung function numbers, claimed Evelyn was unable to breathe without continuous assistance and had less than 6 months projected. Evelyn's face didn't crack, not even a flicker. She used my illness, she said quietly, to profit from my death. The prosecutor nodded. She built a narrative and she was close to getting the payout approved. The only reason it stalled was because one of the doctors she forged a signature for died 2 years ago. Michael's breath hitched, his hand went to his forehead. My God. The prosecutor continued, voice sharpening. This isn't just fraud, it's federal fraud, insurance manipulation, medical identity theft, attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult. He turned to Evelyn directly. You aren't just a victim, Mrs. Hartman. You're the primary protected complainant in what will be one of the largest elder abuse and fraud cases this county has seen. Evelyn nodded once, I understand. Michael made a strangled sound, half despair, half disbelief. She planned this, all of it, even before the oxygen. Yes, the prosecutor said. Months before, she created a timeline of illness, claimed Evelyn needed assisted aid and was declining fast. She even listed herself as the emergency medical proxy for some filings. Michael staggered back a step, gripping the edge of the table. Rachel looked at him carefully. She's been building a world where Evelyn doesn't survive, where she controls everything. Michael's face collapsed. She told me she just wanted Mom to be comfortable. She told me she was worried. She told me. She lied, Evelyn said, voice soft but unflinching. To you, to them, to everyone. Silence filled the room. Then Michael straightened slowly, like a man walking out of a fog he hadn't realized he'd been living in. I'm filing for divorce. Rachel didn't react, she'd expected it. Michael's voice cracked. I married someone who wanted to kill my mother, someone who used my daughter as a prop, someone who God stole from me while sleeping beside me. Evelyn reached out then, placing her hand over his. You're not responsible for her choices, she said, but you are responsible for what happens next. Michael swallowed hard. I'll protect Nia, I'll protect you, I won't be blind again. The prosecutor rose. Tessa will be arraigned in the morning. Charges include attempted murder, elder abuse, financial exploitation, and federal insurance fraud. She won't be going anywhere. As he gathered his papers, Rachel's phone buzzed. A text. She read it and her expression shifted. Evelyn, she said, lifting her eyes, it's the judge. He reviewed the emergency filings. The protective order is fully approved. Evelyn nodded. Good. Safe. Finally. But the prosecutor wasn't finished. One more thing, he said, pulling a smaller envelope from his coat. We traced the second name on the insurance policy. He placed it on the table. Evelyn's breath stilled, not from illness but instinct. The envelope was thin, silent, waiting. Michael reached for it with trembling hands, opened it and froze. His face drained, then darkened. Him, he whispered. Evelyn frowned. Michael, who? He turned the page toward her. The second beneficiary was not Tessa. It was someone who should have never been involved. Snow drifted past the windows in soft spirals, quiet, unbothered, like the world was finally starting to exhale. Evelyn didn't feel peace yet, but she felt movement. She stood in the sunlit corner of the den, the room Tessa used to call dead space, the one she once suggested knocking down to open up the floor plan. Now it held Evelyn's laptop, a small fire-safe box, and 3 manila folders labeled in her own handwriting. She clicked through her bank account settings with calm, methodical precision. Account access revoked. User profiles wiped. Authorized signers removed. Tessa was gone from every login field. Next came medical portals. Pulmonologist removed as emergency contact. Hospital network security pin changed. Insurance provider passcode reset alerts added. Evelyn paused to breathe, not because she had to, but because she could. She opened the next folder, the deed to the house. Rachel had filed the last-minute clause herself that morning, survivor control rights permanently assigned to Evelyn Hartman. She ran her hand across the page, smooth, final. Then she opened the app on her phone, tapped the smart lock interface, and changed the code. Again, and again. By the time she was done, not even Michael had access. Not yet. Because Evelyn had learned, people don't all earn the key the first time. The old doorbell camera, the one Tessa insisted they never needed, now streamed quietly to Evelyn's tablet. Every face that passed her front porch would be recorded, tracked. She moved to the physical side of things, replaced locks on the medicine cabinet, tossed old pill bottles, swapped out her oxygen tubing for the emergency stash she'd hidden weeks ago. And she burned the shared calendar on the fridge. Tessa's neat little notes, Evelyn RX refill, call oxygen supplier, Michael's paycheck clears, gone in a single hiss of fire in the backyard pit. Rachel arrived mid-afternoon. Trust documents are ready, she said, pulling a slim black folder from her case. This gives full financial guardianship to you until Nia turns 18, if anything happens to Michael. I'll raise her, Evelyn finished, her voice strong. Rachel nodded. Good, because we filed this with the court, it's ironclad, no challenge will hold. Michael stepped in quietly as they spoke. His face was drawn but clear. The lines that once blurred between loyalty and guilt had finally snapped into definition. I want you to know, he said, voice low, I've changed all my passwords, locked down my payroll access, transferred utilities into my name, anything she touched, I'm untouching it. Evelyn met his gaze. And for the first time, she saw a man, not a boy who'd let someone else steer. Good, she said, but don't do it for me. I'm doing it for Nia, he said, and for myself, because I helped her build a world where you were disposable. Evelyn didn't soften, but she nodded. Rachel left soon after, slipping out into the wind, her coat flapping like a flag after battle. That night, Evelyn sat alone in the den again. No oxygen mask, no tension in her shoulders, the house was still, the air clean. A notification popped on her screen. Device access denied, former user attempted login, IP flagged. Tessa. Even from behind bars, she was still trying. Evelyn smiled, small, tired, unamused. Then she deleted the alert. In the kitchen, Michael made tea. Nia sat at the table drawing a snowman family. You forgot the grandma, Evelyn said gently. Nia looked up. No, I didn't, she said, grinning. She's just hiding behind the tree, watching everyone. Evelyn blinked, then chuckled softly. Sounds about right. She walked over, kissed Nia's head, and joined her son at the counter. He handed her a mug, mint or chamomile. Neither, she said, give me something that burns. They laughed. It was small, but it was real. Outside, the wind picked up again. Evelyn walked to the window and stared out at the driveway. There was still snow to shovel, trash to take out, mail to sort. But the weight was different now. She wasn't looking over her shoulder anymore. She was looking forward. Then, her phone buzzed again. An unknown number. Blocked before, now rerouted through prison software. One new voicemail. Evelyn didn't listen to it. Not yet. But she played the last line on the transcript. There are others who helped me. You think I did this alone. Evelyn's pulse slowed. Not fear. Preparation. Because even when you cut off the hand, sometimes the rot hides deeper in the arm. The letter sat unopened on Evelyn's mantle for 5 days. Cream envelope, prison issued, forwarded through the county mail system with a barcode printed over the return address. She didn't touch it. Didn't rate it. Some things deserved silence. Silence was her answer. Her closure. By the 6th day, she dropped it into the fireplace and watched it curl, blacken, and lift into ash. Let the rot smother itself. Nia was singing again. Not quietly under her breath like she had in the weeks before the arrest, but fully without fear. She twirled across the living room rug in socked feet, holding a plastic snowflake wand Evelyn had tucked into her stocking early. Evelyn watched from her chair, a book in her lap she hadn't turned a page in for 20 minutes. Michael leaned against the doorframe, a mug of coffee in his hands. His wedding ring was gone. In its place, a thin tan line remained like the echo of an old scar. She doesn't flinch when the doorbell rings anymore, he said quietly. She knows the locks have changed, Evelyn replied, and so have the people inside. Michael nodded. I'm still working on changing myself. You're not finished, she said, but you're moving. A smile ghosted his lips. You sound like Rachel. Good, she charges enough. They both laughed quietly. Outside, snow softened the roof lines. No sirens, no flashing patrols, just stillness, honest stillness. Later that week, Evelyn wheeled a cart into the Brighton Senior Resource Center. Inside were 2 old concentrators, 1 portable oxygen tank, and several unopened mask kits. The director blinked. This is more than generous. I won't need them, Evelyn said, but someone will. May I ask why you're donating? She smiled slightly, because someone once tried to take my breath away. Why, and I survived, so now I'm giving it to someone who deserves the chance. In January, the Hartman Family Respiratory Scholarship Fund launched with a quiet press release and a single photo. Evelyn holding Nia's hand, flanked by a banner reading Breathe Forward. It funded 2 students in its first month. A former CNA, a first-gen college applicant with asthma. Both sent handwritten notes. Evelyn kept them in the drawer where her prescriptions used to live. The house felt different now. No watching, no whispering, no locks she didn't recognize. Michael had moved into the basement unit just until he found his footing. Nia slept in her old childhood room upstairs. Her school papers decorated the fridge again, no more doctored to-do lists, no more mom notes in someone else's handwriting. Evelyn's oxygen tank sat mostly unused now, retired to the corner like a soldier home from battle. Some nights she still woke at 2 a.m., heart pounding, lungs tight, muscle memory. But there was no hand on the valve. No footsteps in the hall. No breath against her cheek whispering, finally, it's our time. No. The only whisper now came from her own lungs, strong, clear, patient. On the next Christmas Eve, Evelyn walked alone into the backyard with a single candle in a glass jar. The sky above was powdered gray, thick with the kind of snow that muted the world and made every breath feel louder. She lit the candle. Not for death. For breath. For survival. For the self she refused to surrender. She stayed there for minutes, hours, she wasn't sure. Nia eventually came outside, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Is this a vigil? She asked. Evelyn looked down at her. No, it's a promise. To who? To myself. Inside, the voicemail Tessa left still sat on her phone. She never played it. Never would. Because sometimes the real power isn't in hearing what people want to say. It's in choosing not to listen. The flame flickered inside the jar, refusing to go out. Evelyn inhaled deeply, no tank, no mask, no help. Just air. Just life. Just hers. Unclaimed by anyone.